Okay. Okay.
Okay. There is a widespread concern today over the question whether Hitler was evil or not. But it's well known that this topic is still being debated on. Opinions vary from different people, and people, however, have different opinions on this matter. Some people hold the idea that Hitler was evil because, in their view, there are two factors contributing to this attitude. Following that, in the first place, it's believed that he started the war and World War II would not have happened without him.
I don't hear anything.
What? You can't hear me?
Hey, yo, bigger man, we presenting. You gotta mute yourself.
If you can't hear anything, that means there's a problem. You can't just.
Hello?
I'm like
Yeah, we can hear you. We
speaking
can
into
hear
my
you.
mic very loudly at this
Carole,
point.
we can hear you. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
It's just Daniel.
What?
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna continue the thing, okay?
Furthermore, in the second place, people thought he had really bad mental issues and he was driven mad.
There were people who did support Hitler, however, and it was most of Germany back in World War II. He was a pretty good public speaker, and his actions did almost lead Germany to a victory. However, they did miss position a couple times, and they did lead Germany to lose eventually. If Germany did win World War II, he would have been most likely recognized as a great leader globally, and he would have been probably the most powerful person in the world. And once again, they almost won.
Was Adolf Hitler a warmonger? Previously, we assumed that Hitler would be a superior leader, and majority of opinions would probably be different today if Germany had won the war. But sadly for him, they lost instead. So we know today him as a warmonger. Therefore, we can come to the conclusion that whether Hitler was a good leader or a warmonger is very situational and based on if his plan succeeded or failed. And history textbooks are often rather biased and written by the winners of war. Therefore, no matter how powerful the other country is, no matter how great it is, the winner will always be known as the savior and the hero and the protagonist, and the loser will always be known as the villain or the antagonist. So therefore, he is a warmonger.
So the majority of people grasp that their parents should have a significant influence on their children. In their point of view, on one hand, kids should be disciplined and have limits on how much freedom they have. But on the other hand, they need a good environment to grow, and they should be treated kindly without trapping them in a mental and emotional birdcage. Therefore, it's no doubt that Adolf Hitler's father, Alois Hitler, tried, but didn't really succeed to teach Hitler correctly. As far as I'm concerned, I can support the fact that Hitler's father was a dreadful, awful, and a terrible parent. It's not only because he failed to teach his son properly, but also because he was strict, quick to anger, and usually took out his frustration on his oldest son, which was Adolf Hitler. The more he damaged Adolf Hitler, both emotionally and even physically, the more corrupted he got.
Although Hitler seems like an evil madman who got driven crazy at a young age, it's possible that he was not in fault and it wasn't his fault. Majority of people look only how he seemed to start World War II, then commit suicide in his bunker after losing the war. And yeah, he slaughtered millions, but it was the same for the other countries. They won by slaughtering all of Hitler's troops, but they don't take fault because they're looked upon as the winners and the heroes. And the loser, however, gets looked upon as the evil minded and the villain. and that's why he committed suicide in his bunker and ran away from responsibility. A lot of other leaders would do this too, so therefore it's pretty hypocritical to say Hitler slaughtered millions and is a villain, because other countries did that as well to win the war.
Now, why we see Hitler as a bad person? Now, we see Hitler as a very, very bad boy that probably would have gotten a lot of spankings when he was a kid. But, to speak for the Allies, they slaughtered the Germans, indiversely and not simply because they were Germans. Or in other words, if you look at it from the Allied point of view, they didn't just discriminate and kill Jews or, a separate minority group or kill someone because of their sexual orientation. Hitler, meanwhile, did that. I'm looking at you, Saudi Arabia, China, Iran.
Hitler was born a very passionate ranter and speaker. He used that to persuade the Germans. What the? Okay. Bro. And he used that to appeal to the majority of Germans. And they chose to support him because they got convinced by his speeches. Another portion of people, however, did not choose to side with him and weren't very convinced. But this was a pretty small amount of people, so their opinions didn't really matter. And if they were too outspoken, they were executed publicly.
So after after Germany lost World War I, they became a republic, and an Emperor Kaiser Wilhelm II was abdicated. And lots of Germany was extremely dissatisfied with this new government, and they wanted the old empire back. So many people blame the Social Democrats and Communists for losing the war and causing the country's downfall.
Economic standpoint. So if you look at what Hitler did for Germany, with an economic standpoint, he there was when he took power, there was this big stock market crash that we all know around the world called the Great Depression. And so Germany's were in big trouble, and so was the rest of the world. And one of the main reasons Hitler was so popular because he helped Germany's economy recover. Although he basically just did nothing, because at the end he just threw Germany back into another world war and just boopity boop destroyed their economy again. Now, if you look at you look at Hitler's military standpoint. So Hitler revived the German military from a small, measly number of 100,000 people to a crap ton of people, and developed a lot of bad, scary toys for the German army to use in World War II, and had a lot of loyal generals and big brain generals like Erwin Rommel and Hindenburg, and also developed a very big
Rommel and and also developed a very big brain, or if you don't know what big brain means, smart military tactic called blitzkrieg, which is still used today. Which is, for example, if you look at Operation Desert Storm in the Gulf War, it's like what the U.S. Marines did in Iraq. Why did Hitler start World War II? Many people hold the view that Hitler started World War II, just to throw the world into chaos, because, why not? Well, people thought he was this crazy person. But in reality, he just thought it was supposed to be, he wanted it to be a smaller war and just retake some of the territories that Germany lost in World War I. Conclusion. Wait, do you have to say something?
That's very, very interesting to know that he only wanted to take back the small piece of land that Germany lost because of World War I. Then how did it end up with a worldwide war?
Oh, it's because Hitler wanted to take back Poland, but Poland had an alliance with Britain and France. And before that, Britain and France were okay because it didn't really want to get in another war. But since Germany invaded Poland, then they got into big trouble. But anyways, conclusion. To conclude our long and very passionate rant, we can safely say that Hitler appealed to Germans, but lost his reputation gradually by plunging Germany into another